Thank you for joining our session. My name is Bill Weimer. I'm one of the architects and engineers on HCL Connections. And today I would like to take you through some of the work that my team and I have been doing on Microsoft Teams and how we are integrating that in with HCL Connections and what we're taking a look at. So, ideally our goal is we're looking to make life easier for employees that are using both Teams and Connections. And we've done that with several different use cases, kind of with different angles. So I'll take you through some demos of how you can use Teams from within the Connections applications, from within the web app or the mobile app, to either chat or share data. There's also, as well as if you're in the Microsoft Teams app and you want to easily access or share data from Connections. We've got some demos for that. Take you through a little bit of customization, how we can customize both the app and using App Registry, and some of the challenges and next steps for Teams integration. All right, so largely this is going to be demos. So why don't I will take it off to, we'll start with, I got my environment, I'm going to be Felix Adams in this particular case, this persona. I'm logged into our preview server running Connection 7. And Felix also has I am using the desktop version on a Mac for the Teams application. So you could use the web version, but I've also got the desktop up here. So I'm going to start here, and I'm on our social homepage. So this one has the important to me bar, so I've added some colleagues that are important to me. And one of the things we've added is, for example, we've got Lucy Suarez here, and she now has a little chat, Teams web chat icon here that I can click, and if I want to go and contact Lucy and talk with her, that actually launches Teams. It's using a Teams deep link, a universal link to directly launch the application and bring me right in to easily chat with Lucy. And this is scattered kind of throughout the application. So for example, the important to me bar is one place, but if we go to, say, my network, I've got Lucy in my network, and wherever you would see a business card. So whether in the activity stream or profiles or communities or wherever, we also have this option on the business card to be able to chat directly with Lucy. It does the same kind of thing. Takes you over there. As well as if I just go to Lucy's profile itself, we've also have the option here to do that. Let me get rid of this little bar here. Okay. So another option, that's kind of being able to chat within Connections. We also have this option you'll see scattered throughout the Connections web page. We've got this little Teams icon up here in the upper right-hand corner. This allows you to share just about any page within Connections with Teams, with a channel or a team. So I'm going to go to Communities, and I will search for what I've been using here, my travel community, travel destinations, and you can see here, if I bring it over here and I want to go and say I want to share this page with my colleagues in this Digital Week team that I've got. So I go ahead and bring that up. Oh, looks like I thought I was signed in. I'm not. You may already be signed in this case, but I am not here. Felix Adams. And it's going to ask me for, this happens sometimes. It's a little bit of a glitch. And this is actually the Microsoft code. But now allows me to share with, say, if I want to share with that Digital Week channel, bring that up and post that. And I can say, this would be, go ahead and share this link with that. Click share, click close. And if we bring it back over to Teams and I go over into that same channel, you'll see it is indeed showed up there. So this is scattered wherever. If you wanted to kind of do the same thing over here on files, Slightly different location for these. So for example, be up here in this bar here, kind of click the same thing, brings it right up. I am logged in now, so I can go ahead and share this to Digital Week. Great. Okay. So from that perspective, why don't we take it over into the Teams side of the application? I'll kind of stay in this Digital Week channel that I was doing here. You can see the couple of posts that have been added. But what if you want to like add a tab here? What if this travel community is very important to you? You want to be able to make it very easily accessible within this team. So one of the things you can do is you kind of click the plus button at the top to add a tab app. So Connections, we are providing a tab app as part of Connection 7. So this would have been uploaded by your administrator to your Teams application store. Got it right here. Click Connections, and the first thing it's going to do is it's going to prompt you to, it's tied to communities on your particular Connections instance. So I'm going to bring that same travel destinations community. I'm going to click that, and it's going to ask you, well, which application in that community do you want to link to a particular tab? I'm going to go down here to Wikis. And in fact, travel destinations is kind of long for this tab, so I'm going to shrink it up a little bit. I'm just going to call it Travel Wikis, and I'm going to save it and post it back to this channel. Also, the other thing you should notice, I did not have to log in there. I'm within my Mac desktop application, but we do have this environment configured for a single sign-on between Teams and Connections. There's a trust relationship that's defined at the Connection server to let us do that, so that works out pretty nicely. You don't have to log in again as the Connections user. I am the Felix Adams identity. And that brings it right into this travel wiki. So this looks pretty much like the same wiki page. The only difference is we did add this little collapsible nav button over here on the left to kind of make it a little bit more responsive and fit better and tighter screens there. So the other thing I want to show you, that's a tab app, and you can add as many tab apps as you want, as you need for your team, whatever channels you want. The other thing you can do is, say I'm talking in this channel and I want to share some information from Connections. We also offer a message extension. So if you click this message extension here, this gives us a way to excuse me, share both things that I've recently visited. This is like your quick results or type ahead search in Connections. So I could share other communities or wikis or really whatever you might have visited recently within Connections, you can share directly in this channel. Or we also offer a pretty simple file picker over here. So it's the same type of picker that you would have normally over in Connections. You could share files from My Files or share with me or my folders or whatever. Well, let's just say I do have over in My Files, I've got, let's share one of these pictures. Let's share the Big Ben here and just post that in Teams. That's going to cause a card to be launched here with this Big Ben London JPEG. So the content itself is not within Teams. It's really just a link, but now you can very easily just click View Content. That takes you back out to your, it shows you that picture over in Connections. So that's all that. So a couple of different things. I did want to mention a little bit about customization. So we have a couple of areas that we can customize. One is for the applications within Connections, like if you being able to see like the MS Teams chat in the Important to Me bar or over in the business card, that can all be turned on and off as you would wish. So these are all done as part of the App Registry applications. Some using customizers. You can just, as an administrator, you can go up into your App Reg. You can go up. You can see these extensions. You can turn them on and off. You could even change some of the data around it if you didn't like the icons. You want to change that or the labels. This is the one where you can see we're using this deep link back to Microsoft. When you click on a user, it's going to open that user and launch with the email property over in Teams. So a number of different things like that. And the other important part of customization, a little bit more extensive, is the application itself that loads up into the Teams catalog. So we are going to be, the way we will ship this is we will ship the Teams app as a custom application. So the Teams administrator will be getting a manifest along with the icons that we ship around it. And really all it does, it's not really any code itself in this application. It's all pointing back to the code that we're running on the Connection server. But you will need to go into this manifest to do things like at least change the URLs for your specific connections instance that you're using. But you also have the chance, if you wanted to, say, change the icons. If you want to change the colors or the graphic, maybe your company calls connections something a little bit differently. You can give it a different name, short name, full name, the icons there, descriptions, whatever makes sense to your employees for how you were using connections. The other thing I'll mention, this manifest kind of describes both the Tab app, but also this message extension. And the message extension today does require, since it does use a bot from Azure, it does require this particular URL here. This is showing our preview .hclconnections.net URL going in on the Team Share service. This one does need to be accessible from the internet. So it's still secure, but it does have to be available. The Tab app does not. The Tab app could be completely internal. There's nothing using coming back from Microsoft Azure for that, but this one you can. If this ends up being like a deployment issue, or you wanted to adopt the Tab app before, that's certainly possible. We could just comment out these the Compose extension and these bots and not have them available in the app, until the time at which those would be ready to go. So when it's all localized, we'll have once the languages are available, we'll have all that ready to go. All right, so that takes us through customization. I'm going to switch back here to go through a little bit of this kind of background. Talk a little bit about the challenges and some of the improvements that we were looking at. So as far as when we were developing the Teams app, we had Microsoft actually has a fairly extensive set of graph APIs and APIs that are available for Teams, but they have even more that are available in beta. And certainly we did find a number of things that are only available that were impacting us. For example, one of the things that you noticed in my demo is when I was doing a share from Connections into Teams, I could only share with an individual channel or team, not a one-on-one. That's because those APIs are all in beta right now with Microsoft. We expect that they will move those to production at some point, but we just don't know have that available yet. And the other thing was single sign-on. Single sign-on, I'm glad that we were able to show that in the demo today. That was one of the things that we pretty much worked on right up until the end to get that to work. So I'm glad that we could make that work, but that was certainly quite a challenge. The other thing I want to mention is there's a lot more we could be doing with Teams. Some of this we just did not have time to get in. We were working up until the end on a story which would have allowed us to kind of integrate the team itself with a community much better. For example, creating a community would have automatically created a team, would have kept the membership in both in sync, that type of stuff. We just didn't have time to get all that finished up. We did not explore personal tabs. Personal tabs are a pretty easy thing for us to do, we think. Being able to add your stream or your personal file, something like that. So there's still more that we can do, and we're looking forward to feedback on how your company is using Teams and Connections, and maybe you can suggest some good use cases to look at in the future. All right. So that is, I will turn this over to Mickey, so he'll take us through some tailored experience. Mickey, can we take Mickey off mute? Giancarlo? Let's see. Giancarlo, can you hand presentation over to Mickey?
Oh, okay.
There we
well,
go.
At least I got the unmute part working. Now I need to get share. It doesn't say I can share. Do you have to give me rights to share, Carlo?
Yeah, you know what? I think I'm doing it. There we go.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yep. Okay. I share my whole screen. Great. Oh, no. I meant, yeah, maybe. No, not that one. This one. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about this. Okay. All right. Is this, I guess everybody can see my screen, I hope. Is that true? Bill, you can see it?
Yeah, yes, we can.
Okay, great. Okay, perfect. All right, great. Thank you. So on this session, what I'm going to touch on is tailored experience, and you might have heard all this the mention about Ansible scripts and how we're making deployment easier, and I have a demo for that as well. So first about tailored experience. Well, first about myself, for those who don't know me already. My name is Mickey Banatwala, and I'm an architect on HCL Connections. So from a agenda perspective, we'll move through this rather quickly, but I did want to take time to sort of point out some of the salient points of templates and, from a deployment aspect as well. And then we'll have a few demos. So getting on the same page about connections communities, then talk about the tailored experience components, templates, and then how do you administer templates itself. So I won't go into a big deep dive on connections communities and things, but to point out that one of the pillars of connections, other than profiles and files, of course, is communities. And the reason communities is a pillar is it provides a central collaboration point for a team. In a way, it could be known as a container or a place that allows for focused gathering and sharing of information. The reason it's able to do all of those things is because it not only manages the life cycle of the tools and services that you bring into a community, it manages also the membership. So a virtual group, if you will, that can then have access to the content that you're trying to share in the community and provide focus. So if you remember, with Connection 6, we started shipping something called Copy Community. And that was an attempt at alleviating some of the problems around, getting the overview page or the page that you enter and see a group of people enter and see in a community really right. Meaning you design it once and then maybe you can just copy that same design and start using it so you can get your project or whatever it is done faster with a community than spending time with just making an overview page. So what we've taken from that is we've taken that a step forward now with templates. What we are now doing is taking an entire community along with content, and I'll touch on what we do and what we do not take, and some of the deep dive into when we get into the templates part in a few minutes. I'll point out more things, but look at it as an extension of what we've done before, meaning Copy Community, where all it did was the overview page. Now we're basically taking the content and all of that, and of course, a brand new or a revamped, I should say, highlights page that will become your overview page in communities going forward. So when you really think about, or at least when I think about what we've done with templates, is taken the patterns of collaboration that you have for which you are actually creating communities and then turning it into templates. So if you have X number of projects or whatever it is that you're creating communities from, and you want to create more communities out of that, we've given you an avenue to do that. And in Renee's presentation, I'm hoping some of you had time, to attend that. He was actually showing a return to office scenario where the head office had created a template and then the local offices basically just created the community using that template. And I'm sure you saw how quick and easy it was to take one of those templates and then turn it into an instance that is more appropriate to whatever it is that you're doing in your branch office. So spend a few minutes on the deployment aspects of, or the component aspects of tailored experience. So there are four big things from a tailored experience perspective. There's the layout, which is the thing I mentioned about highlights, the create experience wizard, templates, and then, of course, how do you administer templates themselves. There are pieces for these shipping on the WebSphere side. So highlights, and highlights is not new to WebSphere side of connections. We have been shipping it for a while. Some of you might have known it as ICEC, or maybe do still know it as ICEC. Maybe still know it as ICEC, but we've already shipped highlights and you can actually use them in communities. But this time around, we are making highlights so much better from a UI perspective and just very easy to use. And of course, through use of templates, that much more easier to use because you don't have to fiddle around with where the widgets are and what content is showing where and things like that. We've also added support of third-party widgets to highlights, therefore making it a true replacement for the old overview page, or the current overview page, I should say, not old. Along with highlights, we're shipping something called a template application on the WebSphere side. What that is responsible, this is essentially the core of templating. What it basically is responsible for is taking a community and essentially, like I show in my diagram, it takes the community and it effectively serializes it to disk. So it takes all the content, all the definitions, the highlight pages, the files, the wikis, the blogs, so on and so forth, and puts it all on disk. Once it is on disk, it's not hard to imagine that you can now take it and put it on another completely different system. So from where the template is built to where the template is actually being used is of course possible through import-export as well. In the back, we use impersonation APIs to create an instance of that community from the template, and I'll get into that in a little bit as well. To fully leverage the power of templates, and I shouldn't even say fully, I should probably just say leverage the power of templates. You need the component pack side as well. There are three main services shipping on the component pack side. One is called the template service, and that essentially maintains the template object and its lifecycle. So when you create a template, associate categories and things like that with it, it's the responsibility of this service to manage those objects. It does use persistence, and everything is persisted in Mongo, but Mongo is already there. If you're using OrientMe and things like that, there is nothing new other than the service aspect. So no new infrastructure-based component is being introduced. Another service that is being introduced is the Creation Wizard, and that is the new Creation Wizard. You might have seen it in Renee's demo as well. As you now go to create community, you'll be presented once you have the Creation Wizard part deployed. You will notice that we have an entirely new way of creating communities, which we think is it is more wizard-like, but we think it is a lot more usable and clean. The last piece we're shipping is the starts of an administration portal, and mainly focused right now on template administration. So this is where you would come to administer templates. And of course, the administration portal works with the template service, the creation wizard eventually works with the template service and the template app, if you will. So just to point out that you need both sides to get the fully leveraged templates. Okay. I touched on this before. So, we did ship something called Copy Community a long while ago. But what all that did was just do the overview piece, and that was it. What we are introducing now is the ability to actually do not only just the layout part, which was the current overview page, but it takes the definition and the content where the content is pointing on the highlights page and actually serializing that as well, and of course deserializing that. It takes all the community applications as well that are in the template, and more importantly, it also takes all the content that is there. And I'll mention what kind of content it takes on the next slide. But it's actually doing all three of them. So just getting into a few of the template details. First of all, templates in the system can only be created by the template administrator. So all this applies to 7.0, obviously, and we will look for feedback from all of you to see how we can make this better. And of course, we have ideas of our own to how to explore future of templates in this area as well. But for now, only template administrators can create templates, and it'll be using the template API, which are template admin UI that I'll show in a minute. They're globally available. So what this means is that the template administrator creates a template, and then and any end user goes into the creation wizard, they will see the templates there. So what is not possible today is creating templates and then saying only ABC users can see it, or there are no ACLs on templates, if you will. So they're essentially publicly visible, and therefore anybody can create an instance out of that. They're transportable. And this goes to what I mentioned before, which is, the template application, if you saw on the WebSphere side, is serializing everything to disk. And once it is serialized, it actually doesn't need the template at all. It doesn't need the community at all from where the template was created. So therefore, you can now take this serialized object and export it via the API or the admin UI that I'll demo. And then you can take it to another system and import it in. We didn't forget about compliance events. So when you create templates, when you create a community from a template, things like that, all of those things will have compliance events as well. So for those of you who are looking for compliance events and are monitoring them, rest assured that we've taken care of that as well. It's a copy and create. So this is more to not to the Domino side, the side of the house, which is there is no refresh on the templates. So when you create a template, or no refresh on the community is created from the template. So when you create a community and then create a template out of it, when you then create an instance from that template, you can change the template and then push more changes into the community presently. So that's just something to keep in mind. It is copy. On initial create, the template will be marked. So this, what this is basically saying is that if you create a template and it has, let's say, 4 files and 5 wiki pages and a few blog pages and things like that in it, all of that content, when the instance is created, the author of all of that content will be the template administrator. And we went back and forth on content attribution on these things. Of course, the other option could have been to just give all this content to the person who created the template. But that sounded really odd to us. So we've erred on the side of giving it to the template administrator. From a compliance perspective, this makes sense. From a traceability perspective, it makes sense. So that's what happened. Templates can have categories associated with them as well. So if you have multiple templates, it's much easier to find if, we don't show you a big long list of, 50 or 100 templates. You can actually take all those templates and associate categories with them, which are also defined in the template administration UI. And we don't ship with any categories, so they're all defined by the organization that adopts or creates these templates. So they're all organization defined. It does not copy everything. Just hold on that. I'll get into that in a minute. And the last, of course, is the template object is independent from the community. So I say this because while the template does know which community it came from, other than that, once you create a template out of an existing community, it has nothing to do with that community. You can delete the community. You can keep changing it if you want. You can, do whatever it is you do want with the community. A template object has its own life cycle, which is separate from the community. All right. So just a little bit more nitty gritty about, I said it has a template when you create it, will copy a lot more than what copy community used to do. So what does the template contain really? It has the title, description, tags, types, settings, layouts, logos, related communities, content that is related to that, bookmarks, widgets, and all the content and external widgets as well. And when I mean all the content, I mean literally, the files, if there are files, if there are blogs, if there are forums. And I think from a demo perspective, if you had attended Renee's session, or I urge you to at least take a look at the video of that demo, he goes into some of this as well. So you'll see, what is copied and all of that. What the template does not contain. So subcommunities. If you have a community that has a subcommunity and then you create a template out of it, the subcommunity will not be associated with that. So we only take the community itself, not the subcommunity. Some of the social data, and I won't get into all of this, but it makes sense not to copy some of these things. Who follows the community? Who are the members? Pending invitations, file versions. So, for instance, when you created the template, you had a file and 50 versions of that document. You don't want to now create a template with all those 50 versions. download history, things like that. So social info and things like that are obviously not copied, and it made sense to us not to copy any of those things. So that from a template linkage perspective. So I mentioned that the template itself is distinct in its life cycle from the community, but it does know and it does note when you create the template that it came from this community. Likewise, a community created from a template knows which template it came from, which template ID was used. So I see a few questions. Can you just hold that? I'll get to those in a minute. I see them flashing by. So the community knows what template it came from, and this is all to do with, while we don't have this shipping in 7, this is to give you visibility on which templates are popular, not popular, all of that. But of course, we can show you ways in how you can get all of those reports, but there is no UI currently to get these things. And one thing I just added today, I think this is not new to anybody building templates, but I'll just sort of mention it. Because we're copying content and we're copying titles and all sorts of things, right, when the template is created from the community, it stands to reason that the way you build this community, and we'll ship a template's best practice, is to keep the template as generic as possible, right? Don't take a private community which has, a title, a forum topic called "Let's Send Mickey on Vacation," right? When it is very narrow and it only belongs to this community, right? So keep the content in the template very, very generic, if you will. All right. So lastly, the admin portal. This is a new piece that we're shipping, and then I'll show a demo on that in a minute, a movie at least on that in a minute. But this is where an administrator, template administrator, will come in and do all the lifecycle management or create, update, delete of the template itself. This is where he can import templates. This is where he can export templates. This is where he can upload logos. A template object can have a name, category labels, description, a logo, and a preview. So that, it helps essentially when you're creating a community, it helps the end user sort of take a look at, what this template is all about and if that is the template they want to choose. Like I said, you can import templates as well. And a word on categories, I mentioned this before. This is just a way for organizations to bucket templates into different categories of use. Now, you don't, it's a free form thing. So we don't ship any categories. You define all the categories you need in your organization. And you can then associate these categories with the templates. All right. Having said that, let's go. Actually, should I take a few questions now, or it's 11? Okay. Let me first show the little demo on the template API itself. So what this is of course we have the UI that I told you about, right? But we actually build all of that on APIs as well. So the whole templating and creating from template, all of those things have APIs now. So what I'm going to do is just play this, and I'll keep my mouth.
Things with templates.
Okay, does this work better?
Namely, doing it not through the UI, but through the APIs that we have for templates. So on the right-hand side, you see a browser window, and I'm going to call the template API to give me the list of all the templates that are currently in the system. There are 8 templates in the system. And on the left-hand side, I have everything populated, and it has this payload where it's saying community UID is this, which is an existing community on this current deployment. I want to call the name of the template Digital Demo 2, and then the description, as you can read, is a new Digital Read Demo template. So we're going to hit send, and it's going to contact the template community template microservice, which is then going to call the template application that I mentioned before. So it's returned. It's basically externalized that entire community that we have. And it's telling me that the template ID of this new template is 160. The community GUID that I told it was obviously the same. And here's the name and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and just refresh this to see how many templates there are now in the system. And you notice there are 9 templates in the system, the last one being the one we just created, which is Digital Week Demo 2, and the name of the template. So now, once the templates are there in the system, then the Create Wizard and the Admin UI, which I'll show in the next section, will basically be able to work with these templates. And of course, users can pick from these templates to create their new communities.
All right. Hopefully that audio came through. Is that true? Anybody?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, okay, this is the next. So the next demo is about the administration portal that I promised.
The administration portal, specifically how templates are administered. But as you will notice, with Connection 7, we will be shipping a start of an admin portal, which will hopefully in the future be the one central place that administrators can come to administer all things connections related. What you'll see in Connection 7 at least is the surfacing of not only the template administration, but also the mobile administration in the same end. Talking about template administration, let's just expand this. So you see 2 sections here. One is templates and the other one is categories. And if you remember from before, I'd mentioned that templates can be associated into categories. This taxonomy is created by each organization themselves. We don't actually ship any categories because they're just labels and descriptive labels that you might want to do for your organization that makes sense for your line of business. From a template perspective, this is where you would come to see all the templates that are available in the system. And of course, the administrator can pivot on categories as well if he wants to. You can import a template directly into the system and create new templates from existing communities that are there. Once a template is created, of course, you can edit the template as well. So on edit, what we allow is, of course, the name of the template, a description, the category, whatever you want to pick here, multiple labels are allowed. You can upload a template logo, which will be shown in the Create Wizard and, of course, in the admin panel as well. And then a helpful view of the template as it would look, or maybe a glimpse of the community that the user is about to create from this template. So these are the kind of things that are associated with the template object that I had said I'd called on before. So that's the edit. And then if you look at the preview part, of course, you can delete the template and all of those things as well. But if you click on the preview, this is the same experience that the end user would get if he were in the Create Wizard. So if the user was in the Create Wizard and clicked on that eye icon, they would be brought to this screen, which would then tell them, here's the template logo, here's the name, here's the description of why you would want to use this template, and lastly, of course, what the template would sort of look like, or the community once created would sort of look like from the seed content that's there in the template. There is also the additional option here to export a template. So once a template is created, that is how you export templates and then bring it on to other systems or import it into other systems if you. Just quickly, I'll talk about mobile administration as well. So I told you that all the things that you do from a mobile perspective are here as well. So here in the different options, you'll see the collection of mobile administration also showing up in this segment portal. Thank you.
All right. So thanks. And I see people have been answering questions in the background. And what I promise at least is to take all your questions, and then I'll answer them if they're already answered, and we'll take it from there. So I think I saw something about a question about can you export templates, and I think I addressed that. You can. I only have 4 minutes left, and I have a 15-minute video. So I'll start it, but this video basically is about how easy we are making it to deploy connections. This, if you watch it, and we'll make the links available, if you watch the entirety of the video, we've tried to speed it up as much as we can. It takes about an hour and a half plus to install not only connections, but LDAP, DB2, component pack, the Nginx stuff, put customizer in place, exchange all the certificates, nuts to bolts, everything.
So you provide this Ansible script, number of machines, and you define the environment that you want it to use. Once you do that, you just hit, these are the scripts I want to run, and it'll basically run it, and it'll give you this. With 7, as you know, we are also not only giving you the Ansible scripts and all of that, but we also support OpenShift and EKS. So that is something that, if you're looking for that, that would be great to, explore. And then from these scripts perspective, we will actually make them available. And what I'm hoping is we've done our part, and we will, of course, keep adding to this. But as you find other things, whether it is security related or different SQL Server or something on the other backend related, if you want, you can also create pull requests or something, and we can make it more generally available for other. So with that.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the quick presentation of HCL's end-to-end automation for connections and component type. The whole idea of this automation is that it can be run by anyone. The only prerequisite you need to fulfill is to be able to run Ansible either locally from your machine or from any other officially supported way when running Ansible. And the purpose of this is to give you a chance to spin up either one single component, depending what you want to do, or to spin up the full end-to-end connections and component pack one way or another. When it comes to connections and component pack architecture, I will show you today how this looks like on 2 different examples. One example is preview.hlconnections.net, where most of you already probably have access to. And the another example is actually way bigger, kind of more customer-like environment like this one, where basically we want to have a full-blown separation of everything. So where we have one Nginx server, separate LDAP, whatever it is in your case, 2 IHSs, 2 doc server, 1 DMGR, separate database, at least 3 Kubernetes worker, 1 master, and 2 connection server for WebSphere. To touch base a bit architecture, the scripts can be used, as mentioned already, to set up everything or to set up a single component that you see here or a bunch of other smaller things that are not visible on this feature. This means that you can use this automation only to configure your front-end Nginx for customizer. You can use it to only set up AJ proxy, which is going to be a load balancer to our Kubernetes cluster. The reason why we added HA proxy or any load balancer is to basically give you the chance to run either multi-master environment that you spun up as vanilla, or to point simply to EKS or OpenShift, which is officially supported for version 7 as well. Sure, you can spin up Kubernetes as well, including NFS, everything you need, including component pack. You can use it to spin up a single component customizer inside the component pack. It is really quite simple and quite extendable. So to show you what we did here and how the configuration looks like, this is, for example, the configuration file for the full-blown distributed environment, where the only thing you want to do is you want to set up some variables like.
So I'll mute this. I realize we're at 11:15, and I don't know how much over I can go, especially because this is virtual. I can't tell if people are already leaving or not. But this whole video, which we will actually make available, was basically going to show, this file that he's walking through, which most people are probably familiar with, right? If you're familiar with Ansible, is essentially the setup of the environment. What machines, where do you want what, all of these sort of things. Whether you want, component pack, orient me or not, or you want customizer, all of those sort of things, your DB2, LDAP, all of that. And it will actually set up this entire thing. So it'll set up WAS, it'll, of course, here it does self-signed certificates, but you can do different things. You can, have a real certificate if you want. But it'll also set up not only the WAS thing, and if you want on one node, but also on multi-nodes. It'll set up component pack all in one box, or like he said, pointing to EKS or OpenShift and any of those sort of things as well. And of course, if you want, it'll actually roll out Kubernetes for you as well. But it's the bare minimum Kubernetes sort of deployment. yes, it is best practices. The one additional thing that these Ansible scripts also do is they tune your DB2 and WAS to what the performance guidelines actually suggest. So you don't have to do that as an extra step if you use these things. So I don't know, we are at the top of the hour, so I will pause. But like I said, we'll make this thing available. And then I think in December sometime, there is a much bigger deep dive on this exact topic where they will actually have a whole hour and they will walk through all the scripts and, show you the deployment as well. So with that, I don't know if you have time for questions or if people have questions or if they've already been answered, but if there are any burning questions, we're willing to take some now. PD2 11 point something is all I see. Vanna saying. DB2 11.5. I'll have to get back to you on that, Vanessa. I can find out though. Okay. Anything else? Can anybody hear me? There's a bazillion. Okay, perfect. Okay, all right. With that, I think that's the end, I suppose. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Before.
Okay.
So, Carlo, how do I get the whole chat? Do I just copy it now, or
No,
can I save it somehow?
No. Full chat will be saved and posted into the Teams. So then.
Oh, great. Okay. All right.
You. Okay. So I can stop the recording now. Thanks for all of us for joining this session, and have a good evening. Okay?
Oh, wait. Andreas is saying I had 11:15. Andreas is saying it was 11:30. That's not true, is it? Did I end it early?
No. If you want, we can stay. No problem from me, because this is the time I received for the session. But if you want,
that's what I saw as well. But are people probably? Well, there are some people here. Well, I mean, it's up to. Okay. So he says start time was 10:45, but I had the start time at 10:30.
Exactly. This is the same time I received for starting the session.
I don't mind. So if people are on the call and if we want to stay, they're all muted. That's why I can't hear any of them. Oh, you're right. Okay. I'm sorry about that. Right. That's what it is. That's what the confusion is, I guess. So, I mean, I can let that movie play and answer questions if people have questions.
Yeah.
And also, is it possible to unmute everybody? I mean, there aren't that many people here, and they're all well behaved.
All people are unmuted now.
Okay, great.
Hi, Mickey. It's Jörg. So one question, and I already made an idea in the portal. So why don't you allow to have sets of communities to create a template?
Sets. Oh, so you mean multiple communities?
2 main communities or a main and 3 sub-communities, since this is what a project looks like, that you have different communities for different purposes.
Okay. All right. We just kind of try to keep it simple for now, at least, not get into multiple sort of communities, but sure, we can explore something with you and others, right, as to how sets of communities would work. And by sets, I think you mean subcommunities, right? Why didn't we allow subcommunities, or not just parents?
Could be subcommunities, could be even 2 main communities that you combine. So one restricted, one public, that many projects have that kind of communication.
That's a good point. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. And you said you put it in AHA, right? So
I did, yeah.
Should do that, yeah. Okay, all right. We'll talk about that internal. All right. If people want to see the deployment thing, I don't mind keeping on playing it, right? I just stopped it because I thought the thing ended at 11:15 and I was already over. But if there are other questions, feel free to ask and I'll answer them right here.
Maybe I missed this point. So how do you manage access to the template? So who can read, who can delete, who can manage these templates?
So the only person who can do this is a role that you have to give in templates, right? So we call the person template administrator, and that is different, or it can be an entirely different user from connections administrator, because we realize that connections administrator, let me put it this way. We wanted to make sure that you could take a user and give him the role of template administrator, or a set of users, I guess, if you will. But those users are the only users who can do anything with templates in the system, meaning the life cycle of the template. They can create them, they can delete them, they can update them, so on and so forth, with the admin UI that I showed you, and of course, even maybe through the APIs, right? But any user in the system can create an instance of a community from the template that the template administrator has defined. So there is no visibility problem. Once the template administrator says there is a template in the system, any user who can create communities, right, will be able to see that template. There is no hiding the template from certain sets of people. The reason we think that, most people will say template admin is different from community connections admin is just because, the role is different, right? The connections administrator has access to just about everything. And in companies where that may be just perfectly fine, right? And then some companies, maybe the roles will be different. So template administrator may be different from somebody called connections administrator.
Thank you, Miguel.
Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Thank you. Yep.
The users, okay, that's Bill answered that. Any other questions that I can help answer?
Hi, Miki, Andreas here.
Yep.
Talking about the PDF export coming with Connection 7,
yep.
Is this more or less the code that we see in ICXT, or is was that developed from scratch new?
It has not been developed from scratch, but it has been worked on quite a bit.
Okay. Okay. Assuming that it's okay. We will see when it's GA that it runs without issues.
But right. So it should. In fact, we fixed a lot of things that were kind of not exactly working with the IC360 PDF export as well. What ships with connections? If you have IC360 already, and all the other management things that it does have, ICXT, sorry. You will get a 7.0 version of ICXT that you can deploy. So you'll have all of the features that you had with ICXT, plus all of the the PDF export will be new, and all the defects that we tried to fix obviously will all be fixed in your version as well. If you don't have ICXT, we ship you only components that we absolutely need. So from a template perspective, from a PDF export perspective, we are shipping only small pieces of what we really need with ICXT. It's called Connections Feature Foundation. That's what we call it now.
CFF. Thanks a lot.
Yeah. List you can answer. Okay. Somebody says somebody started wrongly. Still, there are questions in the list which you can answer. Can you? I don't know which one. All right. Yeah. So Jorg, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, yeah, he's still here. Do you have other questions maybe that I didn't answer?
No, you answered mine. So maybe
okay,
there was one of Christoph Stöttner in there. So if you have this Ansible stuff and setting up, will the side-by-side migration be back? Since it was disconnected at the very moment, like I understood. It was only in place.
So I don't know if I want to touch that right now. but yes, I guess there have been a lot of customers asking for, what happens if you do side-by-side migration? Can you do side-by-side migration? And I know that the team internally has been working on a document to do this. So I would imagine that, it will be possible to do side-by-side migration, but I'm not 100% on whether you can go from 6.0 to 7.0, or do you have to go from 6.5 to 7.0, or how that works. But
just a decision for the future. So if you think about 7, 8, 9, whatever, will there be side-by-side migrations available, or it's only in place? That was the thing I got, that it will be only in place in the future.
Right. So I think neither Renee nor Adam are here. And I can answer technically what the thought is, but I'd like them to answer, what they want to do.
Yeah. I'm here, Mickey. Hey, it's Adam.
Hey, Adam.
Your point is taken about side-by-side migrations versus in place. We know, that the goal is to make migrations easy. We recognize that most deployments you're not going to just upgrade your production environment and keep it running along. And so we do have guidance on doing it in more of a side-by-side setting, right? The expectation is that it may mean setting up, if you're on 6.5 now, it may mean setting up another 6.5 environment, migrating the content, and then upgrading from there before cutting it over, versus a direct go from a 6.0 or 6.5 directly, in your current production environment to 7.0 in your pre-production environment, and migrating content up a level as you go.
Yeah, I fully got that one, but seeing the Ansible stuff in there, that looks more side-by-side-ish, isn't it?
Yes. So that would be, I would use that to set up a clean environment and then migrate the data into that. I don't think that would go and upgrade your current environment.
But then you would have to need a 7 environment with the old data and not a 6.5 one.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I cannot see myself ever do a in-place upgrade at any medium-sized to big customer.
And I don't want to throw my 2 cents in, but given the automation that we have now, right, with Ansible and things like that, I tell you, we set up preview, we set up all our internal environments using this automation. And once you have the Ansible scripts and once you have the thing automated, it literally takes 2 hours maybe to set up the whole thing. So in the old days, maybe it sort of worked, but okay. So I'm pushing the team internally to support side-by-side. I'm with you guys. There you go.
Good. Thank you, Mickey. Next session is starting, I guess, so we are now in parallel otherwise. So thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. See you. Bye-bye.